By the way, if you can see this, this is a sketch. Hello everyone, welcome back. We're live at Weston Park, International Watercolour Exhibition. So it's my turn for the demo today. I'm going to paint two fishing boats. It's a picture that I just taken about a couple of days ago at Cornwall. Got the picture up? Okay, you can see that. All right, I'm going to do something similar, but this picture was taken when it's overcast. Typical British weather. So I'm going to add a little bit of sunlight into it. Well, not too much. This is not tropics, where I come from. All right. So if you look at the picture, there's three boats. There's a red one right at the top right corner, which I'm going to eliminate it. We only got 45 minutes, so I'm not going to get too complicated. So the main boat will be the white one on the left, okay, and the one in the background, smaller one background. If you look at the whole structure of the composition, is placed on a diagonal line. If you can see the diagonal line from the top right corner to the bottom left corner this way. Okay, this is a sketch I did, a value sketch I did last night after dinner. Quite a rush job to do it. But anyway, for your benefit, I'm going to follow this value studies quite closely. Although it's a difficult thing to paint white, because in watercolor, white, as you know, is the white of the paper, right? But in white, you have values as well, especially in this kind of weather. You've got very gray, overcast gray, and I think some of you have seen 50 Shades of Gray. But we're not going to paint 50 Shades of Gray. We're going to paint gray, but as I'll explain along, we'll use temperature, cool and warm grays, all right? So for a start, I'll put this away. And I've done the pencil lines on the quarter sheet watercolor paper. This is Arches, 300 grams or 140 pounds. And I have my colors here. Okay, I have 16 colors here that it's been in this palette for, I don't know, maybe the past 4 or 5 years. Sometimes I change one or two a little bit, but this is 16 colors stays with me always. You know, I go out, paint in my studio. I have a separate larger palette in my studio, but that one has 24 colors, but this is a 16th main color that I use. Shall I go over them? All right, so this is Hansa yellow, light, or you can substitute it with lemon yellow. They're very close. Most of the paints here are by Daniel Smith. A couple of them is by Holbein, and I think there's one or two by Winsor and Newton. All right. This is permanent yellow deep. This is yellow ochre, sap green, quinacridone. Do I pronounce it correctly? Quinacridone gold, cadmium red light, permanent alizarin crimson, followed by this is rose of ultramarine, cerulean blue, horizon blue of Holbein, ultramarine blue, moon glow, cobalt blue, ultramarine turquoise, burnt sienna, and the last one is lunar black. Okay, so without further ado, I'll start. First of all, I'm going to wet the paper, but not the entire paper, because I want to keep the shape of the board crisp and defined. So it's a delicate task here. I'm just going to wet it here. This is how we're going to paint for the next half an hour. Okay, try not to touch especially the top part, the roof, the hull here, so that it stays white. Okay, I think we have enough. I'll just spray a bit of water right at the bottom.
Try turning your body more this way.
This way? Okay. Is it okay if I turn this a little bit? Okay. All right. So I'm going to start with a wash of grays. As I mentioned just now, grays is not just one color. You have the cool grays, you have the warm grays. So I'm going to mix the colors as I go downwards. I'm going to paint from the top to the bottom, the first wash. Generally, I'll always start with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. These two are my favorite colors to create a gray. And you can see you get very neutral gray if you mix them in even in balance ratio. It's a little bit too, okay. All right, so I'll start with this. Using a mop brush and lots of water. Oops, don't get the streak of blue here, all right. But I want it to be lighter at the top, and then gradually when it comes down, it should be a little bit darker, so I'm going to add more water. Just let it run. Okay, at this stage I'm going to introduce a little bit of horizon blue to the mix, just to cool it down a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't run into the boards because I didn't wet that part, and it shouldn't. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of turquoise now, because of the colors of the ocean. There's a bit of ocean color. Turquoise is a green shade of blue. This side as well. Oops, I think I Get the tissue. Accident always happen when you paint watercolor, so don't panic, you know. Sometimes you see this happen, just have to be a little bit calm, don't panic. And see. But the thing is, with watercolor, you have 10 seconds to fix your mistakes. Once it dried up, that's it. Okay, I'm going to warm it up already when it comes downwards. So a little bit of yellow, ochre, and permanent yellow deep. I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna as well. Okay, just to warm it up. Cerulean blue to get back to very gray. Cerulean blue is fantastic color if you like painting the grays, you know. They usually dull up your hues a little bit. Just going to pick up. Always remember to pick up this pool of excess paint, otherwise it will form ugly patches, or you call it cauliflower, or what do you call it here? Cauliflower, all right. Need my tissue again to, just to blot out some of the edges. Okay, and I'm going to carry on and paint the rest of the water. Okay. While it's drying up here, I'm going to darken the values here. Usually, you may not see it with your eye, you know, but when it comes to painting, it's always nice, especially when you have a large space down at the bottom, to darken the value a little bit down here. It serves as an anchor point, you know, to anchor your composition, and so that the focus will be on your main subject. So I'm going to add a bit more ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Okay, and I'm going to start from right at the bottom here. And just a bit of horizon blue to balance out the colors a little bit. Yes.
Push your palette up a little bit, it's living off the screen. There we go, lovely.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to fix this if it's still, oops. Okay, while the water is drying, I'm going to paint the shades of the boats. As I mentioned just now, it's not all white, so I'm going to add in the colors. A little bit of alizarin crimson and the rose of ultramarine here mixed with the leftover. I don't know what paint is it anymore. It's all muddy, but don't worry, I know what I'm doing. If you've got enough water, even if it's dirty color, it will stay diluted. So just warm it up a little bit with the, it's close to purple, maroon. As you notice on the photos, if you can put back the photos, the buoys are white in color. If I'm going to paint that white, I have to paint around it, and it's going to take me forever. It will be a good time if you want to use masking to mask out all the white bits. But since we are running against time, I'm going to change the buoys to red. all right, so that it's, red color is vibrant, it's bright, so it gives us a focal point. Hopefully it's not dried up here yet so that I can, I'm gonna make this one slightly cooler. Okay. Now, as Janine explained earlier, the important thing at this stage is to determine your light source, all right, where this comes from, the direction of the lighting. I think it's coming from the top left-hand side. So I'm going to have a little bit of a shade on the right side here of the board here. So as you notice now, I don't paint one mix of color throughout. Halfway through, I'll drop a little bit of other mix. This is very neutral gray, so I'm going to warm it up a little bit. Let the color blend and bleed into each other. Okay, and have shadows right beneath the roof here. And that's about it. Okay. At this stage, I'm just painting getting in all the the mid-tones. It's not the what do you call that, the darkest dark, but the mid-tones. And after this, I'll add in some more. It's like I'm using the glazing technique, if you notice. Okay, the window is about the same shades. I'll add a bit of blue, cerulean blue now, so that, as I mentioned, we have 50 shades of gray, but so now it's slightly more colorful. I'll let this dry and we move on to the smaller boards. When you have two subjects that's pretty similar, you have to decide which one is your main subject, which is the larger boards on the left. So for the one on the right, I'm not going to paint in too much detail, so it will be very impressionist. Just a touch of darks. Important bit is to make sure you get your values correct. Okay. And there's a blue lines over here. I'm not sure I'm going to do it. Maybe just a very fine line like this. Don't get too much so that it doesn't fight for attention. As you notice now, I'm going straight into some of the details on the smaller boards because this is still wet. I'm working on the smaller ones now, but there's always an alarm clock in my head, not to overwork, especially when you want to paint in impressionist style like this. Okay, a little bit red on the, I know what that is. It's a basket. think there's a basket there. When it comes to painting impressionistic, you're not going to paint a basket, you just dab a color and it reads as something. Okay, I'll let that dry and we come back to the main board, and this is, we got the mid-tones down and now we're going for the second layer, which is slightly darker. The thing is with painting, it's not just watercolor, any medium that you paint with, try to have, when you're painting your main subject, try to have the most light and the most dark, or the lightest and the darkest value. All right, so over here you have the brightest of the paper here, okay, and the darkest dark right at the window here. And with that, you create the most contrast. The whole subject will pop. Okay, that's the main idea. You want your viewer to look at what you want to tell. It's storytelling. You need your viewer to know what you were trying to say, not with words, but with colors, with shades and values. Okay. I'm just adding colors now, following the picture quite closely, because I think red and green on the basket here or the box gives a perfect complementary colors here, all right, red and green, and gives you an excellent contrast. Just going to get down a little bit more. Okay, when I'm painting, there are three things that I try to have in my painting. Three things to make your focal point more interesting. Okay? One, of course, is colors. Try to have complementary colors in your main subject, which I have here, red and green. The other thing is what I explained just now, values. You need to have your brightest shades and your darkest shades, light and shades, gives you contrast. And the last one, anyone want to guess?
Hot and cold.
Hot and cold, yeah, temperature. Yeah, but for the focus, if you want viewers to focus on something, details, textures, all right, textures. So values, colors, and textures are my, my selling, my tips. What do you call that? Selling point or something? Okay, so I think we got most of the dark bits here down. A mix of alizarin crimson and cadmium red for the box here. Whoops. Mistakes happens, but I don't really care. I have tissue paper. There you go. Just going to have it a little bit darker here. Okay. I know it's easy to say it, you know, you need lights and shades, you need colors, you need textures, but the problem is, where do you add all these things, you know? For me, when it comes to values, where do you put the darkest dark? It's always right at the edge, like here, where the gap is. Then it creates the most contrast, and this thing will pop out. The brightest white and the darkest dark here. I'm using a little bit of lunar black. I know some people are fond of using black and white, but I don't care. So lunar black with a little bit of the turquoise green I have here, ultramarine turquoise, and it gives you a very nice. I don't use the lunar black alone. I mix it with other colors to enrich the colors, to make it darker. And sometimes the strokes here are just very calligraphic like this. I learned Chinese calligraphy as a little boy in primary school, and I have to thank my teacher for putting me in that class, so now it comes very useful for me. All these strokes, you know, I did this in 2 strokes. So sometimes when you paint, especially impressionist style like this, try not to be too controlled. If you read my profile, I used to be very controlled, and I realized watercolor is not meant to be controlled. Let the water paint for you. You know, you just guide it along. Easy, isn't it? Okay, we're almost done with this board. I'll just have a few details. I'm not sure what's that on top of the roof, but I'm just going to add a few strokes to make it add a bit more texture. All right. We're going to have another glaze of grays along here, just to balance. It looks a bit too dark, so to balance it up, I'm going to darken this a little bit. That's the thing with watercolor. Sometimes you paint a wash, and once it dried up, it gets lighter, and that's not what you want. So with water, so that just to soften the edge here a little bit. Okay. I think I need to do the same over here. Okay, now let this dry. I'm going to do the reflections on the water now. If it's a sunny day, it's a different kind of reflection as compared to a overcast day like this. And I prefer it this way because when it's a sunny day, a white board will reflect white on the water, and it's a pain to paint negatively in using watercolor. So this is just perfect. A little bit of cerulean blue, burnt sienna, too much. Where's my cerulean blue? And just a wee bit of yellow ochre, because it's muddy water. Okay, I'm gonna spray this a little bit here so that it stays wet. Okay. I'm gonna let the wash just now to run into the reflections like this. It's good to use a soft sable brush for this. You don't want to get your reflections to be too stiff. So a sable brush will be perfect for this purpose.
Marvin,
Yes.
for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Is that good for you?
Yep.
And can you push your palette up a little?
push this, my palette, okay. There you go. I'll use this to stop it from sliding down. Okay. Sorry about that.
Sorry as I. I'll fix it.
A bit more of the darks here. Okay, we'll let this dry. I think it's looking all right. There's a what you call a rope here, and this rope will pass a reflection as well. So I'm going to link them over like this. Okay, while it is still damp, I'll drop a little bit of this turquoise right at the edge of the board here. You have to do this while it is damp. If you do this too early, it will just create a mess. If you do it once it's dried up, you just get stiff, very stiff, hard edges. So timing is always key in watercolor painting. Now we're going to move on to the next board. Hopefully I get the same shades of grays. A bit of yellow ochre. What did I mix just now? No, I forgot. So sometimes it's intuition. Watercolor painting, especially when you paint it my way, I'm very impressionist. I can't decide what color I'm going to use like last night. I decided now. And it's very spontaneous. Well, that's good and bad thing. Well, David asked me to give him a list of colors that I'm going to use for this demo, and I haven't got any idea what I'm going to use at that point. Looking all right now. So this is like about 80% done. So I'm going to use a synthetic brush now, a round brush, synthetic with very sharp point to do all the details, and we should be done. All right, let's see. It's just the darkest of dark. To establish and define some of the lines, and I'm going to add the letters or numbers later on. I have a very creamy mix of the cadmium red and just have a touch here to give him some highlights to pop out. Maybe not so much here, just a wee bit to balance it out. Okay, now the boys. I said I want it to be red, right? So, oops, it's still wet. Hope it doesn't smudge too much, otherwise it looks like light bulbs. It's starting to spread, so I'm gonna have my tissue and just to dab it a little bit. Whoops. Okay, let it dry. I'm going to redo the bottom parts so that it's darker at the bottom round area. It has steady hands for this. Can't get steady hands when there are hundreds of people watching me. That's what you do, you know, you hold your arms with your left hand and try to get it steady. Just a bit of texture, no, it's not there. Make it looks older than it really is. Your finger is your amazing tool to have, you know. Everyone has it. it's free. Okay. Now this part is more or less dry now, so I'm gonna have, whoops. A bit of blue. Doesn't matter. Just gonna scrub it off a little bit here. Okay. Here as well, but this should be slightly tinier. Add some of the rails. And if it's still wet, I can scratch it off from here. It's too dry, never mind. Now the trick is, when it's too dried up and you still want to scratch it off, just wet it along where you want to scratch it. It's a tip for you. And then use a palette knife. You can use a fingernails if you've got long fingernails. Scratch it like this. All right. How much time have I got?
5 minutes if you need it.
Okay. And the rest is just the details, you know. Pole here. Just a bit too thick for a rope. Could have used a rigger brush, but it's all right. Okay, last bit now, the letters. Or is it PZ? Do you say Z or Z over here? Z. Yeah, Z is US, right, in American. So we say Z, PZ49. PZ49. And over here. All right. Just a bit of dark here and there to make it really stand out. Usually I stand back a bit. Oh, no, not on that. Okay, and then I'll soften it a little bit. All right. Then you got shadows right beneath it, right about here. be a little bit rounder. A very diluted mix of cool grays that I got here. And then I'm just going to wriggle, do a few strokes like this, maybe a bigger brush. For the water ripples here and there. Need clean tissue. There it is. Slightly darker down below here. And the larger strokes because it's in the foreground. Okay, and have you still got time?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay, so I just get some of the details, paint some details like this. There's a, what do we got here? There's a railing like this. Okay. Maybe a little bit darker down here so that it pops up a bit. Okay. And I'm just trying to get back some of the shades that I lost over here. Maybe a bit darker. Okay. I'm quite happy with it now. Just a bit of the blue line down below, just make it a little bit more defined. And soften it with a bit of light wash. Yeah, just stick with watercolor, you don't want to overdo it. I think this is fine. Okay, so we compare it back with the sketch that I had earlier. Okay, I think I put the values down quite nicely. Okay, all right. With the darkest dark here, 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 and keep the roof white and the side of this, what do you call it, the wall here, or whatever it is, white, and the darkest bit here, so the whole thing pops up, okay? So there you have it, a demo of fishing boats at Cornwall. All right, okay, hope you enjoyed my demo. Thank you, thank you.